Hello, I hope you can see this all right. This video is going to be on the connection between sovereignty, authority, legislation, positive laws and non-positive laws, and that's actually a misnomer. Non-positive law is not actually a law. Unless you sign a contract, which makes it a law for individuals. So we'll start up here, and the first thing you have to know is that I don't call the people we the people. I call us the people at large, or in Upsher's book, he calls them the one people. Now, according to Upsher, the one people are not we the people. The one people are all of the people with arbitrary sovereign power. And the reason why they have arbitrary sovereign power is because their status is that of a king, where basically they can do whatever they want as long as they don't hurt anybody. Kings are not supposed to hurt people. So Upshur calls us one people, or the one people, and we've also been called people at large. People at large are unrestrained. So when we say we the people in the Constitution, Upshur describes the we the people, and Cowan in 1864, who was in Congress, also considers we the people as just the people who make up Congress. And I think if you can understand what I'm telling you, you'll understand why that is probably the case. So up here in the first line of information, I have lowercase sovereign, lowercase jurisdiction, lowercase power, lowercase authority, lowercase arbitrary power, and have all rights. Okay, so this is kind of like what's stated in the Declaration of Independence, where Thomas Jefferson makes the point that all men are created equal and all men have all their natural rights. So the sovereign, which is the people at large, have a jurisdiction, which is power and authority. Jurisdiction means power and authority, and it's an arbitrary power because we have all of it. We have all of the power. So the people created the state. And the lowercase sovereign power created the states. And the states have been given specific jurisdiction, and those jurisdictions are in the Constitution. For example, the Constitution of 1836 for the Republic of Texas lies out the specific powers given to the government by the people. So they have the uppercase jurisdiction, uppercase power, and uppercase authority because it's limited and it's defined. So not all of it. They don't have all of it. They only gave what those who have all of it gave to them. And then the states then gave some of that to the federal government. Okay, and what they gave to the federal government was, in my reading and understanding of the Constitution, basically only the powers to guide us and organize us in a time of war. And that's in the Constitution, and that's the war powers. So the state gave some uppercase sovereign. The state couldn't give the feds what it didn't have. The people only gave a little bit to the states. The states gave a little bit to the federal government, reserving some of it to themselves and them reserving all of it to themselves. Now, since the people have arbitrary power, they have the power over this and this, so they can take it back anytime they want. Okay? And you can call it whatever you want: secession, retrocession, ending it, changing your political status, changing your standing, whatever you want to call it. The people have the right to do it. Okay. So the state gave some uppercase sovereign, which is jurisdiction, which is power and authority. And if you look to the Constitution, when it lists in Article 1 the powers to Congress, it has a capital P. When it lists in Article 2 the powers of the President, a capital P. And when it lists in Article 3 the powers of the judicial, it's a capital P. And that power gives some authority to them to do some things. Okay, and those things are the things listed in the constitutions. Their constitution and their constitution. So the state gave some sovereign power to the federal government. Okay, so now let's talk about how they make laws and how they can go about making laws and how they make things that look like laws that are not laws. Okay, they look like laws, and because politicians, the nature of a politician is to lie and is to use propaganda, just like a king or just like anyone in power, to get you to do things that it wants you to do, even though it doesn't have the power to do it. They say, well, you know, why did you listen to us? You should know better. And they say all kinds of things, but it doesn't matter, because we have to learn to listen to not what they say, but instead to read what they write and understand that we do have all the power, all the arbitrary power. Okay, so the Fed uses its sovereign jurisdiction, which is its power in the Constitution, as its authority to pass into uppercase laws, legislation which conforms to the Constitution. Okay, so when Congress is sitting in its seat as the sovereign that it got from here, that got from here, it has to pass laws in accordance to the dictates of the Constitution. Okay, it can't go outside of that. And that's why those things that they write outside of the Constitution are not called laws. Okay, so only the legislation conforming to the Constitution carries authority. So those things that they write that do not have authority because they weren't given the power, because they weren't sitting in their sovereign capacity when they did it, only those things that they don't have, that they write, does not have authority. The things that they do write in their sovereign capacity, using the power that they were given in the Constitution, is the proper use of their authority to pass legislation into actual constitutional laws. Okay, I hope I said that right. So only the legislation conforming to the Constitution carries authority, and those are laws and are called positive because they're in conformity with the Constitution, so they're made positive. They have the authority, they have the power, and they did it in their sovereign capacity under their oath. So when they do it in that way, they call the law a law because it's been positively enacted. And they give it a positive law citation. Okay? And that's really important because not everything they write has a positive law citation. Some things they pretend are laws, but they're not. They're just writings, but they look just like the laws, except for they're missing something called a positive law citation. Okay, a positive law citation, when it has a positive law citations, they're laws and are proper and comply with the ideas of federalism. Okay, federalism is defined in Executive Order 13132, and you can look that up. It's under the first part, which is definitions, and then G, it has federalism. So a law not positive does not comply with federalism, which means it is without authority, it carries no weight, it's not constitutional, it doesn't come under the powers that the Congress was given, and so it is not enacted by the sovereign. Okay, it's enacted by some other office, and I don't know what office they're doing that under, but they're doing it under without the Constitution, without their oath. So it's like they're wearing two hats, or they're wearing one hat sometimes and another hat another time, and they're either changing the name of their office when they make certain laws or calling themselves something else. I'm not exactly sure how or why they decided, well, I know why they did this, but I don't know how they're using their office to pass what appears to be laws without actually having the power to do it outside of the sovereign capacity that they were given. So not all congressional writings are laws, okay? Because they're not passed by the sovereign. They're not passed within the jurisdiction, which is within the power, which I told you is Article 1, 2, and 3. They have certain specific power, which gives them authority. So they're not using their office under their oath to pass these writings that are not laws. They're not passed by the sovereign and are not positive. They don't conform to the Constitution. They have no power or authority and are without force of law, without the Constitution. They cannot be used as evidence in any constitutional court. Now, constitutional courts, guess what? They uphold the law, the positive laws, because they have the power, because they're acting in a sovereign capacity, and they are acting under their oath in their office that gave them authority through the Constitution. Okay, so they're holding court. The Constitution allows the sovereign to create a judicial branch which holds court and uphold the law. So they hold court and they uphold the law when they're in their constitutional limits. So instead, what they're doing is they're, again, in the courts, just like the Congress does when it tries to pass these non-positive titles that are not laws, is the courts are switching from having an oath and conforming to the Constitution, using their sovereign power. They're switching to doing business. Instead, they're business contracts. These titles, not positive, are business contracts. So revenue generators. These are revenue generators. They're enforced by courts doing business. Okay? And administered by law enforcement. And the federal law enforcement title, guess what? It has no positive law citation. None. No positive law citation. It's not positive. It has no authority. It doesn't conform to the Constitution. It's not a law. It has no power, and it was not enacted by the sovereign. And so the courts cannot uphold it as a law because it's not a law. They can't use it as evidence as having been made a law because it's not a law, and it has no positive law citation. It does not comply with the ideas of federalism. So my guess is that without authority, without having the authority, the law enforcement, even though they have an oath to uphold the law, not titles. So when they uphold the title, they must have two offices too, because they're upholding a title not made law. So they're acting then outside their oath, outside of their sovereign power, without authority. So how are they doing that? And it's because you signed something. You signed for a license, you signed for your driver's license or your mariner's license, you signed a birth certificate, you signed a social security card. They get you to sign all kinds of stuff, and that's why in some of these titles, not law, they talk about it applying to individuals, entities, and businesses, and corporations, and human beings. And it defines human being. So originally, this is where I had some confusion because I didn't understand that it had to have a positive law citation. And I thought, how is it telling me, an individual, a human being, that I have to comply with these? Well, you don't unless you sign, unless you agree. And most of us have learned that once you show up in court, your appearance is your agreement. I'd like to point out that the UNIDROIT International Commercial Contracts guidance says that a contract, which the non-positive laws are contracts, business contracts to generate revenue. The contracts that they send you don't have to have any kind of specific form. It doesn't have to look like a contract. It can look like anything. It can just be a piece of paper with notice written on it and you owe us a bunch of money. It can be your application for a driver's license. It can be anything. So if they send you something and you look at it and you're like, I don't know what this is, and you throw it away, they say, well, silence is consent, and therefore you consented to our offer to contract with you by saying nothing. So even if you didn't sign it, just the fact that they sent it to you and you didn't answer, now they're going to use the force of this non-positive law upon you, okay? And if you understand where the United States is and where it isn't, you understand that the United States and the people at large are two different places, and that one is foreign to the other, even though one is for the benefit of the other. So this is another opportunity I took to explain sovereignty, power, authority, what's arbitrary, which is what we have because we have all our natural rights, and what specific powers they have because we agreed, well, the state agreed to their constitution and we agreed to the state's constitution, and what the contracts are. So in my opinion, when you go somewhere and they say you have to sign this contract, I always put no contract on it. That's what I do. I just write no contract in big letters and a big black Sharpie, no contract, and I just give it back to them. I don't sign it or put my name or anything. And then I don't, there's a lot of things I haven't had to do because I didn't sign a contract. They don't have a contract with me. It requires your signature. As a matter of fact, I specifically said no. And I remember Ron Paul saying something one time about the most powerful word in the English language is no. So I hope that I hope that you can see this and it came out and you can understand it. And I try to explain things in such a way where you can show this to your young children and they can understand it. And when we're trying to change a belief system, sometimes it's very difficult because we've come to believe certain things for so long that we don't believe anything that goes against that, no matter how much sense it makes. So I hope you got something out of this video, and please consider watching my other videos and liking, so I know that there's people watching this. Have a good day.